Okay, we'll call to order the August 27th, 2019 Parks and Rec Board meeting. Can I get a roll call, please?
Member Bartow.
Present.
Member Coyer.
Present.
Member Harris.
Present.
Member Howdy Show.
Present.
Member Manson.
Present.
Member Supple.
Present.
Member Williamson. Present. Chairman Troutman.
Present.
Member Eastwood is absent.
And now for the Pledge of Allegiance. Next on the agenda is the consent agenda. We need acceptance of the minutes from the Park Board meetings, both June 25th and August 13th, 2019.
I move we accept the consent agenda, item A, Park Board minutes from June 25th, and item B, Park Board minutes from August 13th, 2019.
I'll second.
Great. Any modifications? Hearing none, I'll ask for a vote of approval. All those in favor? Passes 8-0, 1 absent. Next, we'll go to staff reports. Director.
Thank you, sir. I will ask Recreation Superintendent McLean to give a staff report.
Thank you, sir. I have submitted a written report in the packet for you guys this evening. And I'd like to just highlight a couple of things. It's been a busy couple months over the July and August, of course. Basically, staff has been working with the finance department and IT department with our software system and also software support, basically getting ready for the fall season and winter months of the RAC after seeing usage with the summer camp and getting geared up for the pay-to-play type programs that we have out at the RAC and that we are going to be implementing, and the paid usage, so daily passes, things to that nature, now that we've been open almost a year. So we've been working hard on that. Athletic coordinator Brennan had a lot of preparation meetings in July for the fall sports, multiple sports, of course, with the fall season. And then, of course, in August, we had scheduling meetings. He had one today, matter of fact, with soccer, flag football, baseball, softball, and volleyball. So all those sports gearing off here after the Labor Day weekend for games. Recreation coordinator Van Koolen, she, of course, did a lot of preparation and was the main boss on the mini mud run that we had this month, and we had great turnout for that, so well done. We made some adjustments, had a lot of compliments on some of those adjustments that we made, and things seemed to flow a little smoother with the high volume of people that we had out there. Kids had fun, we had great weather, so couldn't ask for better. Also want to thank Superintendent Rulo and his staff for a lot of water on the course and adding some more muddy mess to the course this season. We made some changes there. So, and then of course she also wrapped up the summer camp program. So it was a very good year for summer camp. We expect growth for next year and had a lot of compliments on that program and the new amenity with the gymnasium, the Raymore Activity Center. And we have a couple other highlights. I would just like to mention that we have seen a little bit of a decline in the farmers market. Farmers market is this evening. We are going through the end of the month of September, so we'd like to just throw a shout out because we do have vendors still there. I know with school and sports and everything, it's harder to get out there, but we still do have some vendors that are still selling and have some very good products, so want to make sure. And we still have some scheduled entertainment out there. So with that, I would be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, Superintendent McLean. Any questions? Rich?
Do you know how much the daily usage fee will be at the rack, and if there will be like a family, one-time purchase per year or anything like that?
We're not doing, that falls within lines of membership. We're not really going with membership. It's just going to be a daily use. We are looking at $3 for a day use. There will be the morning as of, we did post it in the schedule of the Raymore activity guide, program guide. And from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m., we are doing free walk. So that way senior citizens, anybody walking that just wants to utilize the track, come in and walk, they can do that from that time. So we're trying to capitalize on that morning. Anytime after that, we do have some fitness programs. The schedule is in the guide, as I said, and it is just a $3 day use per person. The guide should be out the 1st of September, so within the next week, or here with the Labor Day holiday, that might be off a little bit, but probably by the end of the next week, it should be hitting the mailboxes. We will have a stamp or wristband, so that way you can come and go. If you come in at 9 and then want to come back at 4 or 5 o'clock, you can do that with as long as you have your stamp, so it's good for the day.
Anyone else? Thank you, sir. Director?
Thank you. I will call on Mr. Rulo to do a parks report.
Thank you. I have submitted a written report. Just wanted to touch on a few items. If anybody has been by TV Hanna, they've noticed that they started working on the remodeling of the station house this week. The roof is off. It looked like they were putting the hanging lattice work for the outside siding today on the west side. So they're moving right along with that. We're looking forward for that being finished and looking nice. The week of September 3rd, after the holiday, park staff is going to be over at Memorial Park. We're going to actually take the north playground pieces out to start that project, saving a little money doing that. So there'll be a dumpster delivered on the 3rd, and hopefully we'll get started Tuesday, Wednesday on that project. And the last thing, I just want to let everybody know our seasonals have all returned to college. Their help was much appreciated this summer, and getting back to the routine of only having 5 people is always a chore, but we're getting there, and hopefully the weather will cooperate and we can get back to a normal schedule. So with that, that concludes my report, and I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Any questions for Superintendent Rulo? None? Thank you, sir. Director?
Thank you, sir. A couple quick updates. For TB Hanna, as you guys know, the projects at TB Hanna have been separate in terms of bidding those projects out. So the playground and the spray ground have been designed, and they're waiting to be basically ordered and the lead time for the equipment delivered and stuff. The station house is currently underway. The ice rink, I'm working with Custom Ice, just getting the final details out as they custom design our ice rink for that. We did do some work on the site plan, which is kind of the main portion of that project. If you remember, we bid that out. We didn't get a very good return on our bid, so we kind of rejected it, went back, redesigned the scope of work. We're finalizing that with the city engineers, and that should be out on the street next week. And that is the key component of pulling all the pieces of the puzzle together. So the project's moving forward. We're looking forward to it. It will definitely be a winter project, and we're looking for a grand opening of the spray ground next Memorial Day, the playground hopefully sometime in the winter, and the ice rink sometime in the winter. So instead of a grand opening for all of the amenities, we'll probably piece that out as each component becomes available. So working on that. Also want to thank those that could make it to the Hockridge Park ribbon cutting. I know not everybody could. I apologize for the timing of that. We've worked out some details to where we can make that work for everybody in the future on those types of amenities for our projects. But we had a great turnout for the ribbon cutting. Way more people than I expected to be there. So the park, and I will tell you, we drive by it all the time, morning, weekends, everything. there's no less than 4 or 5 cars in that parking lot every time we drive by it. People are using it, people are fishing in it. I know Member Collier can probably attest to that there's people there all the time. So it's just turned out to be a great facility for us. I want to publicly thank Greg Rokos and Pascal Smith from engineering. They did the day-to-day management of that contract, and they put heart and soul and blood and sweat and tears in that project, and they did a fantastic job for us, and we just really appreciate their help. Tomorrow morning, John and I will be doing a walkthrough with MDC just to kind of go through the projects as part of the CAPS agreement, the grant that they provided. It's just like the final walkthrough so they can approve their budget and reimburse the city for the grant that we basically fronted, and it's a reimbursement payment. So we're going to finalize that, and those included the jetty, the Montrose restroom in the south parking lot, the fishing dock, and portions of the trail that were reinforced for just access on trucks and stuff like that. So we'll be doing that, and hopefully I'll be able to announce when we'll do it. It's more of a presentation, so it'll probably be to city council at a city council meeting where they present the check back to the city manager for the reimbursement grant, but we'll make sure everybody knows and can attend that evening. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for the director? None. Thank you. Next, we have no unfinished business, so we'll move on to new business. Presentation item A, Hockridge Park facility fees. Director?
Thank you. I will call on Mr. McLean for this presentation.
Thank you, sir. In the packet, we have I've done some background and justification work on the new amenities at Hockridge Park. Since we did the ribbon cutting last week, we're wanting to get these in front of you guys to view and look at and be able to see where we kind of fall as staff recommends. Moving forward, we will bring to a work session for future discussion as well, and for vote of approval before it goes to the schedule of fees and city council. But staff did research on and did some surveys with local municipalities, others that have the same type of amenities, have the same offerings. As you know, we have the amphitheater with there was a lot of different information given to us. Some just run it completely in-house, some have seating, some have open grass like we do, stage sizes, multiple different options. Some have bathrooms, some have concessions. So it's really a difficult thing because it is a very unique one to Raymore. It's a unique amenity, and it's really a unique feature across the board. There's not a lot of them that are exactly like it or close enough that you can say it's exactly like it. So it did take some research, but we did find that some do rent, some do private party. We decided this fee structure is what we'd like to present for discussion and for thought as we move forward and bring this forward to you guys at a later date. But this is kind of what falls in line with some and fairly close to some of those that are close to us, such as like Grandview and Lee Summit, who are the closest competitors in this market. And so we did event rental. We feel like we're trying to follow the same guidelines that we set up for Centerview as well. So we did alcohol permits, security fees if there is alcohol at the event, and then also a vendor fee if you're bringing out food and beverage services. So those are kind of the fees that we lined up for that, as well as the shelter. We brought in the shelter, compared it to other shelters that we currently have, which we know that is quite a bit different than all the other shelters that we have with the fire pits and places, and then the way the restroom divides it up. So we did a half shelter rental, which is just one half, did full shelter. Basically, this is our starting point, and it's very similar to where we currently are with our other shelters. And for the view and what we have until the playground gets in, then we might reevaluate, but we are looking at these following the same guidelines as what our current shelter pricing is at. So with that concludes the presentation, and as I stated, we will be following up with the park board for future discussions and would like to implement these fees in January. So we got a little bit of time to discuss. At this time, I would entertain any other questions.
Any questions? Wow, lots of questions. Rich?
What's the difference between event rental and private party rental? Private party is 80. If you did that times 12, you get 960. I mean, that's quite, I mean.
Event rental, private party is what we would consider like a church group or a family reunion. Typical rental, like an added bonus, not just a shelter. We're looking at that. Yes, not open to the public. Event rental is where they could charge ticket fees and they can actually, they're open to the public, full open access to the community.
Bill?
Thank you, Chairman. Sir, on shelter, I noticed you got 35 and 70. Are you looking at an hourly rate? Or
Yes, no, that's day rate, sorry.
Day rate?
Day
Is there a
rate.
possibility of an hourly rate?
I would stay clear of that as a staff recommendation. The reason for that is if you rent it multiple times like we do Centerview, then we would have to call in staff to clean the facility, remove trash, make sure it's ready for the next rental. And right now we do not do that with the shelters. It's a day rate, and that way our crew can come in each morning, pick up, clean up, and prep for the next day versus in the middle of the day having an on-call staff member paying that wage and bringing them in. But it is something we can look at if the board would like us to.
All right, thank you.
Anyone? Brian?
Yeah, I have reservations on the shelter rate. I know it falls in line with the other shelters, but it's much better than the other shelters and has more amenities, which puts more risk and more cost to add to that. It's new. It's not unheard of, right? I mean, it's not like we open Centerview and the Rack that are new facilities to us. We have shelters. I would honestly balk at this pricing. I would want to see it higher than that.
Well, like I said, we can discuss this at the work session of the pros and cons. What I found was basically looking at how many it actually seats, that half versus the full. You're looking at 3 tables with 8. If you got kids, maybe 10 to a table. So you're looking 30 max on a side, and that's really tight. So we were basing it off of a rough rental of between 20 and 25 people.
Another thing that we looked at was, don't disagree with you, the shelter itself is much better quality than the others. However, the only amenities there are really the trail and fishing. Once the playground is installed, we will probably reevaluate these prices and increase those because you have a top tier amenity right next to it, so it'll be a premium price at that point. So this was one of those where we would probably start low. When the playground is opened, we'll address the increase in that price again.
All right, I don't mean to interrupt, but with that thought process, then as we revamp and upgrade the parks that are by other shelters, will we raise the price for those?
It's a good possibility.
Okay.
It's one that we'll probably discuss as a group as we get there, especially like Recreation Park, the playground coming up with the Optimus shelter. It's a good time to bring that up. Also with Memorial Park, the West Shelter, that will become a popular venue with the new playground in there. So it's something that we as a board probably want to look at in the future.
Melinda?
Okay, so what if the Arts Council decides to bring in a larger group that has a rider? How is that going to impact the rental fee, the security fee, all of that?
At this time, if it's within the city and city departments hosting the event, there is no rental fee.
Okay, well, I assume there's going to be a security fee.
Yes, and they will be responsible for the exact fee of what it costs for the officers, and they actually schedule the officers. We do not.
And alcohol permit?
Same thing. We will require the alcohol permit, but we have the ability to waive those fees for internal use.
Okay, so typically when you have a rider, though, the city of Raymore is going to be responsible for paying for, or pulling it out of their profits, or however you want to word that, for the security. So are we just charging it for literal fees? Are we charging it $40 per hour? How are we
$40 per hour per officer is the going rate. That's exactly what we charge for Centerview, and that is direct cost to the officer. That is what their off-duty rate is. So we do not make money on that. It is a direct cost. Pass-through cost, yep.
Okay, and we'll just continue with the vendor fee then as is then in that situation?
That one is up for discussion, but right now it's the same as what we do for our food truck events.
Okay.
Any other questions? Josh?
I know we're discussing prices here at this meeting and the fees associated with that, so forgive me if I'm putting the cart in front of the horse here. Are there specific ordinances and stuff like that for noise and time that are going to be talked about, or is that already on the books?
There's already ordinances on the books, and those will be brought forward when we implement the plan and when we have this discussion. It is a topic that we can discuss and we will present at that time. I don't have those right off the top of my head, but yes, there are already ordinances for the park for times and noise and everything.
Thank you.
I'll jump in. Similar to what we did with Centerview is we set the prices and then we came back and we wrote the policy and brought the policy before the board and also the city council at that time. With this particular, with the amphitheater, what we're doing is getting a baseline for what we foresee in the near future on pricing. But then this winter, we'll come back and we'll start developing those policies and procedures for renting, for having concerts and being a venue, not only for a city-sponsored event, but also for a rental of a, say Ray Peck Foundation wanted to use it for a fundraiser stuff. We'll have that same type of policy as we do at Centerview. Generally, though, right now, the noise ordinance and the park, it is by code, it closes at 11. Everything should shut down. And I think you've probably seen some police patrol going out there trying to get used to it and running some folks off who that particular park hasn't been patrolled as much as it will be now. So as we begin the signage and putting all those things up within the park, a lot of those things will start being a lot easier to manage because they'll be posted and signed. Right now, it hasn't been that way.
Anyone else? Okay. Thank you, Director. All right, next brings us to board elections. So at this point, we will call for nominees for board chair. Bill.
I'm putting in nomination our current chair, Steve Troutman.
Okay, and I will accept. Any others? Well, I'm looking pretty good then. At this point, I'll look for a motion. I had to do it, I'm sorry. I apologize up front. It was that McDonald's before the meeting.
And put forward a motion to close nominations at this time.
I'll second.
Hearing a first and second, we will go ahead and vote on Steve Troutman for chairman of the board. All those in favor?
Excuse me, point of order. The motion was to end nominations,
Right.
not for the election. It was just to end the nominations.
Okay.
That's correct.
Okay. So at this point, where would you like me to go? Thank you. I will entertain a motion for the vote
To end nominations.
and nomination. Thank you, Brian. I guess it was that earlier comment. Okay, so we'll vote for Steve Troutman for chairman. All those in favor? Did I miss something again? That's 7-4, 1 absent, 1 abstain. Now I will call for nominations for board vice chair. Excuse me, your microphone wasn't on. Would you like to say that in the microphone? At this time, I'd like to nominate William Manson for vice chair.
Accept.
Any other nominations? He saw what I did. Any other nominations? Okay, I'll look for a motion. Ryan, did you have something?
No, I was going to make a motion to close nominations.
Thank you very much.
Just let it die.
Do we?
Second, to close nominations.
Okay. Now we've closed nominations. We can vote for William Manson. All those in favor? Eight, 4, 1 absent, 1 abstain. At this time, there's no public comment. We will go to board member comment. Rich.
I have nothing tonight, thank you.
Josh.
I had the pleasure to attend the mini mud run. I invited my nieces and nephews from up in Lee Summit. They came down and had a great time. That's all they can talk about all year long is coming down to Raymore and doing the mini mud run. So they had a very good time. Hockridge Park, the ribbon cutting, there was a lot of people there. We had a lot of, big turnout and a lot of positive feedback. There's still some stuff that needs to be done with the grass and stuff like that, obviously, but hey, we're going to get there and it looks really good. Thank you.
Chanda.
Yes, I thought that the Hockridge opening was fabulous and the park looks great, and on to better things there. Thank you.
Bill.
Having attended the ribbon cutting, I have to say that was worth it. The park looks great. I know it's going to look better in the future. And I look forward to that playground being completed. I really do.
Melinda.
So the other night, Sunday night, I'm not a nighttime gym person, so I went up to the gym and it was closed. So I went to Hockridge Park to walk around, and it was so peaceful and nice. It was in the evening. There was like 4 people still out there when I actually needed to, by the end of my walk, needed to use a flashlight to manage to get around. I will say it was a bit muddy after all the rain. I had to maneuver through a bit of mud and clean my shoes afterwards, but it's lovely. Love the park, love the trail. It's great. The one thing I should have asked about when we had questions for Director Mustine was I did notice on Facebook there is some hubbub about the lighting at Memorial Park. Can you address that before we end?
Can you be more specific? What are you asking?
They're
about the
saying
lighting?
there's no lighting at all.
Arboretum.
Yeah.
The Arboretum Lights, yes. If you guys will remember, that is one of our capital projects that we moved back into the plan. It is before the City Council to be approved in October. And come November 1st, that project will become active to remove and replace the lights at Memorial Park. We're aware that they're dropping quickly. We can't repair them. And so the project is to just turn them off. And come November 1st, we'll go with the bidding process and get that done.
How quickly do you think that's going to be able to, will they be fully functional again?
I would say the goal right now is to have it done by spring, a winter project, but, weather determines everything on an outdoor project, but Steve can answer a little more.
Was the Facebook talking about, is there, none of the lights are on at all?
That's what I understood,
Okay.
yes.
I'll check that tomorrow. We've had a lot of the weather issues, so something must have tripped, because some of them work. I'll
Okay.
check into that tomorrow morning.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Ryan.
Just to echo some of the other comments tonight. First of all, my daughter attended a couple weeks of the summer camp, absolutely loved it. Doing it at the rack this year compared to the old Park House was a lot more fun for the kids. I could tell there was a really good organization to it also this year, where you walk in, they radio in to get your kid out, and you don't barely even have to get out of the, sometimes like, why do I even get out of the truck? Just wave at them, because most of them know you by that time. So it was really smooth, just like the mud run. The mud run was a blast. I saw most of you guys out there. Ran flawlessly. I think I mentioned that while I was out there. That the horn was going off a lot quicker than before. So it was running smooth. The course was a lot of fun for the kids. Fire station at the end. Might get that fire hydrant fixed. So, it was kind of interesting, but anyways, it was a good time. And then so just thanks to the staff. They're doing a good job keeping up with all the crazy weather we've been having. So thank you.
Brian?
I have nothing this evening.
Okay, and I'll finish up with echoing what everybody said up here. I just want to thank staff and the people behind the scenes that make all these projects work. Even as you talked about, Mr. McLean, about the Tuesday, in the park, I can't think, farmer's market. There were still quite a few people out there, even though the vendors were down, because I think a lot of them thought it would end in 1st of September. There's still people. This morning I walked around Hockridge, and even though the mud and stuff that Melinda talked about, there were still 7 or 8 people walking around that. That is an incredible park. The mud run, to know that we got a 10% increase again. You guys, gentlemen's thoughts of thinking this up and coming out with it and taking a chance, and then the success of it. And then at the ribbon cutting for Hockridge was just amazing, just to see that park and where it was, and for how many years, the way it looked versus what it looks like now is incredible. So again, thank you to you guys. All right, at this time I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
I move we adjourn.
I'll second.
I have a first and second. All those in favor? Passes unanimously.